Okay, great. So, folks, you don't have to be paying much attention to the headlines to know that the crime rate has been spiraling out of control. Forget since the start of the year, for the last couple of years. We're trying to get to the root of the matter. So we've got Dr. Herbert Gale here, senior lecturer and anthropologist at the University of the West Indies. Good morning to you. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, Chairman.
You've done quite a bit of research in this area. You just concluded an audit of sorts. Is it just in Mobay that you did the audit? That's
Yes,
where you
it's
started.
just a preliminary, yes.
It's a gang audit.
Yeah.
So that's taking us even to the root of the root.
Right.
What's going on, Dr. Gale? What do those findings reveal, and how can we extrapolate from what you found there to talk about what's happening nationwide?
All right. What we've just done in Montego Bay is what we call a preliminary. So it's just a little slice of what's happening. And though we've found things in extreme, we haven't found anything new. I think the first big study done on violence here would have been 1997, They Cry Respect, followed by the St. Catherine study, followed by about 9 more. And they all say the same thing. They also say what we found in Belize, what we found in St. Kitts, what we found in Trinidad, what we found all over the region.
Which is?
Which is that violence is a byproduct of what you put in. So it's a byproduct of your social ills.
Poverty.
Right. Poverty is one. But what the Caribbean policymakers have done is they have locked themselves into an election cycle. And within a 4 or 5 year for an election cycle, you really can't address violence. You can address the symptoms. So if you picture yourself, if you picture having, say, a leakage in sewage, a sewage leakage, it has a lock off at the top that you have to lock off. But everybody's done at the bottom with mopping up, because you're having visitors. That's how we address violence in Jamaica. Nobody has gone up to the lock off to say, let's lock this off. We need the proper tools, because it has an all-in key. So we need the proper tools, we need training, we need all of these things to lock this off. Even though you're mopping up, somebody still needs to lock off, otherwise you're going to have to be mopping up. I have data.
Why are we doing that? If we know that is the all-in key, if we know that is the lock-off is the problem, is that political expedience?
Some of us don't know that that is the problem, because we've stayed down by where the sewage is running out for a very long time. So we pin ourselves to the little area where the problem is. That's one. The second thing is, a lot of us don't really believe that we can turn the pipe off. So a lot of persons just think that it's about the immediate, it's about solving what is there, which means more police presence, more states of emergency, more aggression with aggression, which is not taking us anywhere. The issue is not for people to stop mopping up, I don't have a problem with you wanting to mop up. That is a human response. Human beings are reactive, but some of us have to also be proactive. We have to look long term and say, at the end of, say, the next 10 years, I'm always embarrassed when I'm invited elsewhere to plan for a country for 2050 and 2060 and so forth. But in Jamaica, our plans are, me want it now. Me want to come down and be here now. I mean, these are the voices of people I'm listening to. Me glad then they are no. And there's a no, no, no. And I keep saying, drop off the W off that, because it's a no, no, no. And people not getting it. Because even if you do that, somebody has to do several things. Close the gap between boy and girl enrollment. It don't matter how we get into the spirit, This country is not going to go anywhere until we close the gap. If you try to send a boy to school from GSAT and a girl, the girl has massive top schools to go to. The boys have a shrinking few. Yes, and we all know them. There are 7 of them, and we can count them on 1 and plus 2.
Never can tell you one.
Right? And we do that, and we do that, and we do that. The numbers are, I think, 19,000 compared to 11,000 something. Is a massive gap.
Okay.
So that's one problem. But even before we get to that problem, we have the problem of simply attending school. Let me give you some figures quickly. If you have a child in school, first of all, a child being in school is an indicator that you have enough money to keep that child in school. So there's a financial side to all of this. All right? So it's an indicator as well as a cause. If you're in school, you are safer. A child who's out of school, believe me, you are safer.
Okay.
A child who's out of school in a war zone is 10 times more likely to shoot somebody or to be shot at.
Say that again.
In a war zone,
Yeah.
meaning that
A child who's not in
an
school.
area where males are dying, equivalent to Iraq,
Yeah.
which would be downtown, which would be Montego Bay, which would be aspects of Clarendon and aspects of St. Catherine.
Equivalent to Iraq.
Yes. The areas in Jamaica equivalent to Iraq at full-scale war. In other words, there are more young men dying there than Iraq at full-scale war.
Where's Mobay now? 160 per 100,000?
Montego Bay, we use blocks. We don't use a single year.
Okay.
So we use 2010 to now as blocks of 5-year and 15-year and so forth. And that would be an average of 105 per 100,000. But for young men, it would be 287, and Iraq is 205.
How do we stop it? Because we can keep saying the causes, and it's important to find out the causes.
If you don't know the cause, you can't
yeah,
solve
but
it.
how do we
Fascinating, I have data from 1960 until now for every single murders recorded in this country. I have the numbers. And we haven't changed the trajectory except in go up and up and up.
So how do we stop it? How do we stop it?
We get every child in school. That's going to be a very costly feat. It's going to mean that you're going to have to equip the families to keep their children in school. You can't just give them some lunch at school and they come for the lunch. In fact, some go in time for the lunch and then go home. We have to have a program that is very systematic, that makes sure that every single child in school. Once you lock that down, you are also reducing two things you're doing. You're reducing the numbers of persons, gangs, and organized criminals can recruit. B, if they do recruit, they're recruiting a better human being.
Somebody who's able to make
Somebody who's able to make a decision,
Yeah.
who is not war ready. We have
Yeah.
words like war ready.
So he would say, no, I don't want to be
No,
part
I
of
don't
that.
want to shoot somebody because I have a future.
But isn't that a part of the problem is that what the war-ready youth or the youth that are able to be recruited know, you teach them values and you teach them morals, but there's a struggle between saying no to the gang and there's a get-rich-quick kind of mentality that has come in the last couple of years.
Nothing exists called a get-rich mentality that is completely intrinsic to anybody. Nobody gets up and wants to get rich quick.
You learn it.
You learn that. Plus, it also fits somebody who's already watching everybody around them who went the long way suffer.
Gotcha. I see.
So if you have a young man who gets 7, 8 CXCs and he goes to 10 interviews and nobody takes him on because he have a bad address, that sends a message to the neighbor that says, that path don't make any sense.
so
That's
that's
a
what I-
nerd.
yeah.
Bad man will do them things there. Bad man will go suffer like dog and will get through. And he mocks the guy who does the correct path but gets nothing. So it's the entire society mixed up in this, you know.
I feel like
I'll give you a very cold example. Don't worry, it's family friendly. We have a young man from a Crips. He died as the leader of one of the Crips unit in Belize. Yes?
Crips gang.
Crips and Blood are the two biggest gangs in Belize. He walked and begged lunch money for 5 years to go to school. And he was hungry half the time. Very few business people gave him $1. The day he became a member of the Crips, people were employing him to protect their stores.
What's the
Tell me the
there?
message. Tell me the message you give that young man.
Boy.
Huh?
But
And then he tells this message. This message now ricochets to all the different suffering youth on the corner. So they have an example now. When we look at every audit we've done so far, business people have failed.
it's not just the business people,
The business
politicians.
community.
We know
No,
who
the politicians usually get a negative grade. So that's another kettle of fish. But I'm saying, if you take all the institutions that are supposed to be carrying a society forward, right? The corporate citizens have not done well in every area that has high violence. There is no apprenticeship. There's no structured mentorship. When we interview young people and we ask, how many of you have received help from a business person in your community? It's usually below 12%.
So there are no factories in the area
Right.
where they could get a job.
But the business people are also scared of them,
Exactly.
rather than have a relationship with them.
It's cough.
Right? So they have this in order. They have their family, school, and church. And once you get into a community, and that is all they have, in a country that has a homicide rate on average since the year 2000 of 49.2, you are going to have major problems. So it's a lot of stuff. We need to keep our kids in school. We also need to ensure that the most vulnerable families, which are families with a single mother that has absolutely no support system. They're not connected to a church. There's no man visiting. There's no extended family. That family is called a family at risk. And once you identify a family at risk, in every country that is going somewhere, the state intervenes and rescues that family using not politics, not labor rights and comrades, using a set of social workers who identify and have a central benefits office where they get resources to help those families. Once those families are helped, that family does not do what we call torture, which is burn the children, put them in ants nests, and do them stuff which is going to...
Which is stuff you've actually found in your research?
Yeah, every study we've done.
You burn the kid until the child passes out.
Every study, and poison them so that they walk slow so the gang can recruit them. Because they're half dead.
So how do we get to that point that you talk about? Because it's largely a matter of resources. To set up the social workers
it's largely a matter of the direction of resources.
Yeah.
But the government is telling them don't have it and them allocating. No, you don't.
All three of us here can find 10 things that the government do right now that they could have stopped doing and put the money to the young people.
We have to go, sir. This is scary, but I want to read something that is really, really scary. When I was looking at this, 4 15-year-old boys, 3 16-year-olds, and 14 who were only 17 were arrested in the year when 81 teenagers were killed. 78 teenagers were arrested for shooting. 148 arrested for illegal possession of firearm. Teenagers. 63 for robbery with aggravation. This is just last year. 9 girls, including a 14-year-old and 2 15-year-olds, were arrested after they were allegedly found with illegal firearms. And a 15-year-old boy was arrested for allegedly raping a woman at gunpoint. These are teenagers.
Yep.
These are teenagers.
80% of any child who is going to see a dead body will see that dead body on the day they were out of school. In every single country that you have high levels of violence.
They have to be in school.
And we are not exceptional. We're just a little bit extreme. They have to be in school.
They have to be in school.
It is a basic requirement of a state.
Thank you, sir. Anthropologist, Dr. Herbert Gale. Wow.